Welcome to Gentle Calm. Some people are not exhausted because life is unusually dramatic. They are exhausted because nearly everything in their life has become management. They are always handling, tracking, fixing, and preventing. From the outside, this can look like responsibility. It can even look like discipline. The bills get paid, the house keeps running, and the schedule more or less holds. But something important begins to disappear. Life stops feeling inhabited and starts feeling supervised. That shift is hard to notice at first. Management is not failure. In many ways, it is competence. It keeps ordinary life from falling apart. It holds together the visible structure. But a life can be full of competence and still feel lifeless. That is the real problem. A person can become so occupied with upkeep that they lose contact with expansion. They are no longer building in the deeper sense. They are preserving. They are preventing decline. They are managing consequences. They are keeping things functional enough to continue. After a while, that creates a specific kind of fatigue. It is not only tiredness. It is flatness. Maintenance has a different texture than living. Maintenance is corrective, repetitive, and defensive. It asks what must be handled before it gets worse. Living asks something else. Living includes curiosity, desire, depth, and participation. When a person spends too long inside maintenance, they begin to confuse function with life. They assume that if nothing is collapsing, things must be fine. Because the system is running, they stop asking what the system is for. That is when life begins to shrink. The day becomes a list of things to stay on top of. The week becomes a cycle of recovery and restabilization. The mind becomes a dashboard of unfinished items. The self becomes less a person and more a manager. That role is heavy. Part of what makes it heavy is that management rarely ends. There is always another form, expense, repair, or loose end. There is always something to monitor. There is always something to answer. So even when a person gets things done, nothing feels complete. They are not moving into openness. They are returning to maintenance. That return becomes the rhythm of the whole life. This is why highly productive people can still feel deprived. They are not deprived of activity. They are deprived of aliveness. So much energy goes into preservation that little remains for anything expansive. This is where guilt often enters. A person thinks, I am doing everything I am supposed to do. Why does none of this feel like enough? Because enough activity is not the same as enough life. A person can be busy and still be existentially underfed. They can spend entire weeks doing necessary things, yet never once touch anything that gives the week depth or beauty. That starvation does not always look dramatic. Sometimes it looks like irritability. Sometimes it looks like numbness. Sometimes it looks like low-grade dread. Sometimes it looks like resentment toward ordinary tasks. Sometimes it is the feeling that time is moving, but nothing is opening. That feeling hurts because it reveals a structural problem. Too much energy goes into keeping order. Not enough goes into making life feel chosen. When that tilt becomes chronic, management becomes the operating system. Then people say, I can never get ahead. They say, I am always catching up. They say, the moment one thing is handled, three more appear. These statements are not always about efficiency. Often they are about architecture. A life built mostly around response will always feel crowded. A life organized around preventing disorder will always feel defensive. A life where every ounce of energy is pre-claimed by upkeep cannot produce much spaciousness. That is because management is downstream. It deals with what is already demanding attention. If a person lives too far downstream for too long, they forget the source. They forget what their life is arranged around beyond continuation. That forgetting changes the self. The deeper questions disappear. What do I want to build becomes what do I need to handle next. What belongs in my life becomes what is most urgent right now. Urgency becomes the organizing principle. Urgency can help you survive a season. It cannot shape a meaningful life on its own. If everything is arranged around the next demand, deeper structure disappears. Nothing gets chosen from conviction. Everything gets chosen from pressure. That is why life can start to feel impersonal. A person is in it, but does not feel expressed by it. Their days reflect necessity more than devotion. Their attention reflects burden more than desire. It is hard to feel alive in a life that only knows how to ask for management. This is not an argument against responsibility. Responsibility matters. Order matters. Basic maintenance matters. The issue is proportion. When maintenance consumes nearly all available energy, something essential begins to starve. Sometimes that essential thing is meaning. Sometimes it is authorship. Sometimes it is interiority. Sometimes it is simple contact with what the life is for. A person needs some dimension of life that is not merely preservational. They need some dimension that feels generative, something that adds shape instead of only preventing collapse. Without that, the whole structure starts to feel airless. This is why efficiency alone cannot solve the problem. Better systems may help, but they do not restore aliveness by themselves. You can become a smoother administrator of a life that still feels unlived. The harder question is this: what in your life is protected from becoming management? That protected space may begin very quietly. It may be a walk, a conversation, a reading practice, or an hour that is not for upkeep. These things are not extra. They remind the inner life that existence is not only obligation. Living has to coexist with unfinished tasks, or it never begins. Thank you, and stay calm.